It's Monday and I didn't go into work today, which means I had a 3-day weekend. And by weekend, I mean working intensively on Gunpoint 14 hours a day. So I'm not super relaxed. I am kind of happy with what I got done. Actually, I'm very happy with what I got done. It just kind of sometimes doesn't feel like that because it's so extraordinarily grueling at times. So what I'm doing right now is about 6 or 7 working days ago. By working days, I mean days that I didn't go into work and I worked on Gunpoint instead. 6 or 7 Gunpoint days ago, the thing on my to-do list was just do a quick playthrough of the game, see how long each level takes, and then use those as the par times for the level. So like the time I can do it in is the time you've got to beat as a player. And there's no reward for beating it, and there's no punishment if you don't. It's just a little, it's one of the metrics that you get at the end of the level, so people who want to speedrun it can see how well they're doing. People who don't have to pay any attention to it at all. I imagine that would take, I was being ultra generous, I thought maybe a day. Like, the game is not long. It's should not take anybody a day to play, but unless you get totally stuck, which hopefully I wouldn't because I did make it. But I didn't quite count on the fact that it just wouldn't be possible to play through the game. Like, the game would be in such an extraordinary state of catastrophic disrepair that I don't think there were more than half the levels that I could actually complete. Like, it's broken in 100 different ways since I last played it. And that's because I've added a lot since I last played it. I've been working on stuff that needs doing, adding, putting the story in, making the script sequences work, fixing bugs, changing some of the way levels look and some of the ways some of the levels function, and things like the shop and what gadgets you can buy and how those work, and all that kind of stuff. And it's been a long time since I just tried to play through the game, and it turns out games just kind of decay as you're working on them. As you're adding new stuff, you're constantly breaking little things in the background, but you don't find it out when you just test the new feature, right? You add a new feature, you fire up the game, you try it out, if the new feature works, which it usually doesn't for the first 3 times. But once it does, you move on, and you don't find out that, now level 17 just broke completely. So there wasn't really any way to get a par time without fixing the levels, and so I went through and fixed the levels, and it took about 7 working days. Maybe 6-ish. But all the stuff I was doing, it was long-standing bugs that I've known have been there for a while, new bugs which I didn't know about but which absolutely need fixing, and in some cases a little bit of tweaking and realising, oh, this level is just shit, or oh, this level doesn't make sense for the objective you've been given. Like, now that the story's in, sometimes they'll say, go and steal this prototype, and then in the level you're actually trying to hack a computer, and so I need to fix that. It was all good stuff, but it's slightly, what's the word, kind of draining to put in masses of work. I mean, this is like 6 working days, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a bit more than a normal working week, but this is spread over 2 weeks for me, and it's on top of my day job, so I've been working every single day for like, I don't know, 17 days or something. And working hard as well, like I say, about 14 hours every day. And it's really, really mind-breakingly complex stuff. Like, when things go wrong, and lots of things have gone wrong at the same time, and then when you fix them, the fix doesn't work, not because it wasn't the right fix, but because 2 other things broke that you didn't know about yet, and the way they broke exactly resembles the problem you were trying to solve. And so you've ended up with the same problem that you started with, so you feel like your fix hasn't worked, and then you reverse your fix, you take away your fix because it didn't fix it. But actually you secretly fixed the real problem, but you were suffering from 2 completely unrelated different problems that had exactly the same symptoms. Oh my god. And so doing that amount of work of the most kind of brain-melting kind, and not making any progress through my to-do list, this was one item, this is a 1-day thing, and I hadn't done it after 6 days, is, like I say, draining. But it's done now. You can now play through the whole game and it actually works, which, that wasn't a kind of checkpoint on my to-do list. It wasn't like a particular milestone, because I kind of, to be honest, I assumed you already could do that, but I'd never done it, or I hadn't done it for like a few months. And now that I have done it, I'm suddenly like, wow, I've actually made a game. Like this is the thing you can play now. There's lots of things that don't look right about it. So one of the things I didn't do on this pass was anything art related. So the example I gave earlier of like you're supposed to be finding a prototype, but actually just find a computer terminal and hack it. I didn't change that because that's technically an art problem. So that's John's problem. And I'll have to ask him to make a nice looking prototype thing, and then once he's done that I can do the code part of making sure you can pick it up and it gives you the right control prompts and stuff like that, and then it's marked off as an objective. So that stuff is still to come. Like there's lots of things that there's lots of characters who like waddle across the screen. Anytime there's a scripted sequence, it's using a custom model because it's a particular special character who has some significance in the plot and not a generic guard. And for most of those, actually no, just for a few of those, I don't have the walking animations yet, or I haven't put them in yet. And so there's people like my version of walking animation, I just find two sprites that look a bit different and I alternate them so they just go and it looks hilarious. So yeah, if I couldn't release it in this stage at all, it would be a catastrophe. But it works. Like nothing so far is stopping me from playing it, and there aren't too many bugs now that make me really cringe. There's a couple that slightly frustrate me, and there's a few things that I just think aren't quite good enough yet. But the big positive, like the reason I don't feel shit after this amount of work is that I can suddenly see it, you know, I can see the whole game and I can see what's most important to work on, and I can also see that I'm not a million years from finishing. I might be 500,000 years from finishing, but I'm not a million years from finishing anymore. And it was a really like specific, it was yesterday, at the end of yesterday, I hadn't fixed the problem I've been working on for 2.5 hours. It's just like one bug. You start at this level and you're paralysed for some reason. I don't know why the hell you're paralysed. This level used to work, but now I've changed something, and for some reason on this particular level you are paralysed. No controls work. You can't jump, you can't move, you can't switch to crosslink mode, you can't access any gadgets. You can bring up the menu and quit if you like, but that's it. And that's a weird bug. And I stripped out so many things hunting for it, and I just couldn't fix it. It got to like 10 o'clock at night and I'm like, I can't carry on working on this all night. I need to actually eat something and possibly give my brain a break. And went to bed this morning, fixed it in 5 minutes, just immediately saw, oh, it's probably that, yep, it's that. And then moved on to the next thing, which I thought was going to be really hard, and that turned out to be really easy, and then just kind of knocked through all the rest of my to-do list and got to the stage where the game kind of works. And at that time when that hadn't been fixed, it was not a really huge thing in the grand scheme of things. Like I knew I'd fix it eventually, and I knew it had to be something. There was only so many things it could have been. But the fact that I had to kind of finish the day of work without having fixed it, and I'd also worked on so many things that day that took longer than they should have, it felt like, Jesus Christ, I've just got so much to do. My to-do list is just terrifying. And it felt like it was going to be longer than even my internal estimates of how long it's going to take, which are very, very generous and pessimistic. And that was super daunting, and I just really kind of felt really afraid of the whole thing. And then as soon as I had that one problem fixed and the next bit went well, like that was, 2 hours of work later, suddenly it felt like, I don't have that much to do. I've got this nearly finished game now, and there's lots of things that need fixing about it, but I know what those are, I know roughly how long I'm going to take, I know all the other like finishing and polishing phases, and I feel like one thing I've set aside a huge amount of time is I'm setting out a test version soonish. The feedback from that, I'll need to fix a bunch of things. I've assigned 4 days for that. Then I've also assigned 4 days for general bug fixing, the things I haven't got around to fixing, the things I know are wrong and have known for months and months and months. And then another 4 days for just the tweaks that I always keep meaning to make and never have time to because they're never urgent. And that's my final bug fixing and tweak phase. And that's like 12 days of work, which is very generous. But then, things like bug fixing, you never know how long it's going to take. But I feel like the 6 days that I've poured into this thing that should have taken 1 day, I feel like those 6 days have all been part of that other chunk of work, that bug fixing and tweaking. I feel like I've done a lot of the things that I was putting off until then. So hopefully I was secretly working on something on my to-do list, it just wasn't what it seemed to be. And the rest of the stuff I've got left to do now looks a lot less scary.